Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. It is indeed a terrific Tuesday. No wind and rain, just beautiful sunshine. Yes, a little wind and rain is always good, all the same. 949-837, 949-6990, and a toll-free call with the compliments of flow is available as well. Start things off with some open line, 12:30. The Honourable Premier and Honourable Deputy will be our guests. Guess what the topic is? Marbles, gigs? No, that might be. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today as we invite you to be a part of a discussion. At 12:30, we're expected to be joined both by the Honourable Premier and the Honourable Deputy Premier as we talk about the cruise berthing facility. As you've heard, maybe you were listening to the proceedings from the Legislative Assembly on Friday. Honourable Premier made the announcement. Perhaps you were able to listen to the press briefing yesterday where more information was shared. Well, today we have the chance to welcome them to our studio and to share with them. Well, we'll see how it goes. Invite you to listen and to be able to add your bits as well. But in the meantime, 949-837, 949-6990. Likewise, you can also WhatsApp 925-3261. Or if you choose, you can send us an email. talktoday@candw.ky. Sometimes you just got to rip the scab off, Kathy. Push the door up and go right out. It's fun. I just love the land of the living. It's 949-837, 949-6990. It mightn't be like Margaret calling on the other line, but sometimes it feels the same. Now, had a chance to chat on the way in. A few people had made, as they normally do, their plans of the day, and one called and said, you know what, you get up earlier than you had anticipated or earlier than you normally do because you got a long day ahead. And it's the summer, so you believe, well, the sun doesn't set till after 7. You've got almost 13 hours of sunshine according to the Met Office and the like. And children don't have school, and it's not that rainy. You don't have to worry too much. You can get things done, so why not get started another hour or two earlier? Well, the fellow said, lo and behold, the car won't start. What does it say, Horse dead and cow fat. Seems like some days, no matter what you try to do, you just can't seem to get ahead. And he shared, by 8:30, 9 o'clock, when normally you would be rolled into the office. This day just happened to have been that much more delayed. But he says it gave him a chance to sort of reflect on why is it that we make plans sometimes we don't think. It could be that our plans are such that the weather intervenes and you plan to go outside and you want to maybe work in a garden, or you got a bit of things around the house that you want to do, but the weather isn't cooperating. Not like it's been recently when it's really, really hot, but maybe it's just too windy to do the thing you wanted to do safely, or it's just too much rain, as it were. And he says, how is it that as people, as humans, as man, as it were, we believe we can do what we want, and not account for our actions on others. And he shared that it's oftentimes that notion that there are some of us who aren't willing to defer to others who know more. Then there are those who believe that because of their position, maybe their education, maybe the level of affluence that they have, that they can do as they please without any sense of accountability, any sense that they have to sort of, be subjected to the norms that others ordinarily would be, and they can act, as it were, with impunity. And he thought, is that part of the biggest challenge that may be facing the Cayman context when we look at the things that transpire? So he gave us simple examples. He says, perhaps it's an agreement somewhere, but he says, take the road works that take place. Sometimes there's sufficient notification, fair enough. Sometimes things happen and maybe it's a water main or maybe it's a down power line or something that urgent needs to be addressed. Fair enough, understandable. But then the routine and ongoing maintenance of the gardens, as he calls them, the bushes, some of us would probably say, down the center or the sides of the roads. Every week, some days for days on end, in all hours of the day, it seems like a lane or two is impeded, blocked, and traffic is somehow brought sometimes to a crawl. Now, should that be accepted? Should that be allowed? Should it be that it's not so frequent? Again, maybe simple, but is it sufficient that we should be accepting? Then he goes beyond that. What about how we look at people in our society? Do we castigate those that we incarcerate and say, well, you know what, they're in there, let's not worry about them? Or do we try to find a way to, one, first off, see if we can reduce or somehow altogether, avoid having to incarcerate members of our society because of the society that we have? He says, for instance, as a child, him and his friends, they're going to go to the beach. Well, they would ride their bicycles, get to the beach, and all of them, his words, throw their bicycles down right there by the sand and jump into the sea, run up and down the beach, and the day would pass and they would come back and all the bicycles would be exactly where they were. He said on one occasion he found that the bicycles were moved, but partly he thought that was just there. No, this was his words. He says he didn't think of it as a child back then or a teenager or whatever it was he said he was then, but they had very inconsiderately just shown their bicycles on the path. When they came back, they were all neatly in a row, leaned against each other off to the side, but they were all there, carefully placed, because the little path to the beach, they had just rode as far as they could go into the sand and jumped off their bicycles and run. Now he says, okay, other than them on the beach, chances of anybody else coming back then somewhat remote, but obviously someone wanted to get there. Their bicycles in the path were not the most considerate of gestures. Nowadays, well, you leave your bicycle chained up to the tree, you probably come find the tree and the hole in the sand and everything gone. Not the Cayman that you want. You go to the beach, are you concerned that not only the things that you have on the beach while you're swimming, may be stolen, but while you're there and have it in your possession, that you may be, faced with somebody, confronting you, pointing a gun in your face, taking the chain, the wallet, and who knows what else. A Cayman that in a very short order has changed. Is that acceptable? Is that what we call the price of progress and the like? And then he said, if you look at those of us who travel and we take a vacation, and we go to the big metropolitan cities for whatever reason. Maybe we want to see it, maybe we've never been, maybe we want to take the grandchildren, maybe we want to take the new spouse, because the girlfriend can't come along, maybe we want to meet up with her. He makes his jokes and his jest, and I laugh along, and I enjoy it just as much. But he said in seriousness, we go to these places, how safe are we? Are we going equally to other remote places and escape, just like we try to get to the Brack and Little Cayman at times, to be reminded of the civility, of the wonderful kindness of people, so that you can walk freely, you can sit and have a meal, whether on your back porch of the place you're renting, maybe in the lobby of the hotel, without having a sense of fear. Now, that, you see, is seemingly an increasingly rare occurrence in our societies. And yet, when we move to this notion of progress and ever increasing population and development, are we cognizant that there are those just like us trying to escape that, and we're from a small island, that they themselves are looking for something that is safe and clean and friendly and warm and welcoming and inviting and the like. Now, all comes down, he says, to our perspective and measure of what is affluence and wealth, what is the sense of influence and power, and equally, what is it that at the end of the day is going to point to us leaving a lasting, meaningful legacy. Well, that hopefully captured what he shared, and he said all sparked from the fact that he got up in the morning thinking that he's going to leave early because he's going to catch a little extra sun and do a lot more because, doesn't have to worry about the traffic because it's summer. Don't have to worry about the children going to school because it's summer. And lo and behold, he said, his plan was all a bit thwarted simply because the car won't start, the dog got off the leash or whatever was that delayed him. Maybe it hasn't happened to you. 949-837-949-6990. And the Flow toll-free line usually works, Sometimes we worry about the gremlins getting into the system. So today may not be any different, but we'll know for sure when you check it out. Toll-free with the compliments of Flow, 1-800-534-8255. And then the WhatsApp, 925-3261. Now, well, that infomercial, Susan is standing by to take your order. Delivery in 7 days. Well, it's not like that at all, but she is standing by. And I tell you what, when you're my height and if you can't laugh and love life, boy, I feel sorry for you. Because life is beautiful. Not always, I can tell you honestly, not always the smile in your face reflect the pain in your heart. But if you don't call those things on as if they were, you will not embrace life as beautiful as it is, man. And we joke and we jest, but it doesn't mean we don't have a seriousness about us. But, hey, a smile, they say, takes less effort. So maybe you'll be lazy and just smile instead of having to work all those muscles to frown. A friend of mine said to his buddy, he said, I'm glad you don't smile because your face will crack if you try to. So, hey, don't mean to offend those of us that have it hard and really, really find it harder to utter a smile. But if you laugh at me, go right ahead. Now, as we shared with you, we have the Honorable Premier and the Honorable Deputy. His deputy is planning to join us as well. We're going to talk about the port. That's the plan. What are your thoughts? I mean, at the end of the day, there's some of you who say, listen, let's get this thing done with. We've been talking about it too long. Don't worry about the environment. That's going to grow back. Who cares about the reefs? Those who are saying, wait a minute, those things are important. There are those who are saying, well, they're important, but boy, what's it going to cost us? The money, the social aspects of it. And then there are those who say, well, I'm not quite sure. Hey, listen, if we don't have a thought, if we're not willing to think about it, if we're not willing to ask a question, if we're not willing to share an opinion, you could be a strong proponent for one side or the other. You may be saying, hey, listen, we need to get forward with this thing and we need to get it going now. But, and your but maybe, but not now, not here, not there, maybe here, there, or elsewhere. But if you don't share your thought, and if your thought is one that you holding back because you don't offend your friend, your brother, you don't want to fall foul of, and that could be a business person, a politician, whoever that is, right? And then one day, long from now, you have a sense of regret. Boy, I wish I had said that because, look, I could have told you so. Hey, listen, too late, what they say? Too late, Bobo. 949-8037. And want to take that break down with Susan before I start maybe talking a little too much? No. I love it, and I trust and pray that you'll be a part of what we have to say. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
CUC advises customers on Mount Pleasant Road in West Bay that they will experience interruptions to their electrical service on Thursday, August 1st between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Areas affected include customers on Mount Pleasant Road between the junction with Meadow Lane and the junction with Parkview Crescent, including Pleasant Drive, Avakshi Lane, and Leona Lane. Residents on Parkview Crescent will not be affected. Residents on Meadow Avenue East to the shores will experience interruptions to their service for 1 hour between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. This includes Meadow Avenue, Broca Close, Up the Hill Road, Capiche Lane, Glade Drive, Pleasant Hill Road, Bonneville Drive, Adonis Drive, Lynette Crescent, Yates Drive, Shorelink Terrace, Radiant Lane, Bayshore Drive, Shorescape Lane, Shorewinds Trail, Shoreview Point, Shoreline Drive, and Shorecrest Circle. Motorists are asked to drive with caution when utilizing Mount Pleasant Road, as CUC will have a number of vehicles and personnel in the area and will be deploying rumble strips and signage to manage the traffic flow. CUC apologizes for this interruption, which is necessary to facilitate required overhead infrastructure upgrades to provide our customers with safe, reliable, and efficient power. For more information on the outage and streets affected, please contact CUC's customer service team at 949-5200 or email service@cuc.ky.
Always separate debris from household garbage after a hurricane hits. Debris includes roofing materials, downed tree branches, and metals. All items of debris must be placed in separate piles to the front of the property or at a side that is easily accessible to collection trucks. Debris must be placed in a location that will not cause obstruction to roadways or come in contact with electrical lines. For more post-hurricane waste management tips, visit the DEH website at www.deh.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. It is open line. I know some of you are trying to dial the phone lines. Honestly, if I can say on behalf of Miss Susan, we are answering it. You're not there. Are you playing peekaboo? Or is it that there is something in the phones? Well, keep trying. Likewise, you can WhatsApp 925-3261 and share your thoughts with us. Quick comment that was shared with us off air. The person says, listen, just read this. I don't want you to mention my name. Well, it was George. No, it was Mary. I won't mention your name. And I say that partly to joke, but partly because I know some of you, I genuinely understand, and it's unfortunate that we have to still feel that we have to do that. So, for instance, if someone calls in and says, this is, and then they give their name, maybe the last name is Ebanks or Borden, and maybe the last name is, some name that we can't pronounce with 5,000 letters in it. Should that really matter? What should matter is what the person says. The person has a sense of freedom to say it, and in sharing it, there's an attempt to be civil, to be constructive, and if possible, I have a few friends like this, and they know themselves, and I keep saying to them that I appreciate that whenever they're in a certain company, they try not to use the language that they normally use, but that's what they have become accustomed to speaking in that tone with those choice words, as it were. Now, that's just, unfortunately, how some of us are. Don't think I want to accept it. Don't think I want to make excuses for it. But at least you can say your piece. We're going to hit the phones in a bit. The phone lines are open when you're ready. 949-8037, 949-6990. And when you're ready, you can share your thoughts with us when you are, sort of thinking of which option to use. Well, you can email talktoday@candw.ky if you prefer to send your thoughts with us and have us read it from your email. If you want to WhatsApp, well, you got two options there. You can record a voice note, or you can type it up, or text to speech, or however it is that you get your words on the screen. Well, our WhatsApp is 925-3261. Then, of course, there's all sorts of numbers. Susan's private line is 1-800-534-8255. You just call that anytime the talk shows are on, for the record, or Talk Today. We'll answer it and we'll share it with everybody publicly. Or you can do 949-8037 or 949-6990. A lot of numbers. I make as much jokes about numbers as I can, Sometimes I hope it don't get me in any trouble, but anyway, we'll see. But numbers are numbers, They don't lie, just the people who interpret them that, tells them what they want to say. What is it, Yeah, we're seeing 1 + 1 = 3, sometimes 4. Well, you think about it. You got a man and a woman, and they're expecting a child. That's 3. It's only 1 + 1, but they got 3. So you see, just a matter of how you look at it. Now, the other times is when you look at financial statements or any kind of statistics, or even sometimes numbers that are being presented by a certain entity. They may say there's a certain percentage increase or decrease. It might sound significant. It might even sound like, oh, that's only a 2% increase. Well, is it? 2% of $1 isn't much. 2% of 20 million, a little bit more. Likewise, you think you have a $2 increase on something, and you go, well, it was $20 before, it's only $2, but is that a 10% increase? Is it significant? It's only $2, but as a percentage, it's 10% significant. All a matter of perspective. 949-8037 or 949-6990. Now, as we are sharing with you, certainly always appreciate you sharing your thoughts. Until we have the good company of the Honourable Premier and the Honourable Deputy Premier, we can have open line as we're trying now, and you can call and share your thoughts, whether it's a comment you want to share with us by dialing up one of the numbers, or whether you want to send across our WhatsApp and say, hey, can you mention this? Can you ask about this? Maybe this is something that are sure of and you want more information. As long as the phone lines are open and we're in the studio, we believe that the studio is for you. The program is for you. We're just honored to be able to facilitate an opportunity, and you have what is important to you to share. It could be, and I'm always grateful that he shares when he does, that as a country, we need to pay increasing attention to the amount of garbage that collects along our roadways. Some of us, deliberately, maliciously, throw it from our vehicles. We're walking and we're having something to eat or drink as we walk or ride our bicycles, and we just throw it down, Doesn't matter if it's a glass bottle, an aluminum can, or styrofoam container, we just throw it down. Others, we don't realize it, but it's in the back of our trucks, and they blow off the truck bed, and we're not careful. Maybe we don't have it properly secured. Maybe we don't even remember that we have it there, and it just blows up. We don't care. I'm not saying that's the case, but if it's one, is it one too many? And then we know that either through the church group or through the company sort of initiative or as part of some of the organized activity, we'll go out and pick up in parks and roadsides and beaches and do cleanups, and only to see that by the next day, wow, this was clean yesterday, but look at it again today. It's almost as if it's growing from the ground. 949-8037, 949-6990. And I would share with you that we all recognize that our elected members of the Legislative Assembly, whether they sit in cabinet, whether they have the heavy responsibility of being the Premier, whether they're other members of the legislature, they have a lot on their shoulders, and their schedules are very, very demanding. So momentarily, we'll have a chance to welcome the Premier and the Deputy Premier in our studio, and we'll have a chat about the proposed cruise berthing facility and get a chance to hear. But let's go to our phones. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon
How are you
to
today?
you. Oh, excellent. And I pray the same for you.
Oh, I'm really thankful. I'm doing well.
Amen to hear that.
And I understand from you've indicated it, and that the Honorable Premier and the Honorable Deputy Premier are with you this afternoon.
They'll be here with us momentarily, yes.
Okay, and I think that the main subject on this afternoon's talk show is regarding the proposed cruise and cargo port facilities.
Right.
Okay. Every one of us is subject to our own opinions. Mm-hmm. Sometimes those are correct. Some maybe a little bit askew. Some are totally wrong. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is, while some people may not agree with all that I have to say. We can agree to disagree and still be friends. So hopefully this is not going to ruffle anyone's feathers, but I need to speak my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And what I know is about the harbor. My main concern is that people were speaking about the environment. There's one main question that I've been asking all along to many people with whom I have spoken about this. And I have asked, do you think we need the cruise and cargo port facilities, or do we not need them? Are we planning for just today, or are we planning for 25, maybe 50 years from now?
Right. Now, as you share that, if I could ask, do you think that having them together like we do, where we use the port for the cruise in the day and then for the cargo at night, or do you think potentially having the port for the cargo in one location and then for the cruise passengers in another location, which do you think might be better?
I've seen the artist rendition at the press conference. I watched that, and I saw the artist rendition of what is proposed.
Mm-hmm.
In any docking facility, safety first always. I looked at it, and what I see there, it's certainly a very attractive site rendition. And as far as the cargo port facilities are concerned, cargo port facilities is concerned, where those are located, as I've observed it on the sketch that I saw, I looked at it several times, and I see where there is a barrier between where the cruise ship passengers will be disembarking and which leads them to the main area where they will be processed for, at least what I'm seeing there, it looks like it might be shops, or maybe they're little, I don't know exactly what those are meant for. Maybe they're places where you can get lemonade. Maybe those are the facilities meant to accommodate people who are doing tours and the Stingray City tours or bus tours. And I looked at it carefully, and it looks to me that something that should flow well. Will there be teething pains? Will there be times when you see, well, we can improve here or there? That happens in any new development for the public. So what I'd like to say here is, as far as where the proposed area is for the cargo port facilities, that should not be a problem. But in back of my mind, I also felt that the government, after due consideration, was trying to minimize the environmental impact that the development would have. I looked carefully at where they're planning to do the piles going down into the seabed rather than a solid concrete structure, which means that the water flow should not be impeded. The water should be able to run back and forth through those under the piers, just like I've seen it in Cayman Brac. And incidentally, on my last visit to the Brac, I stopped and I looked at the way that the dock is built there on a much smaller scale, but the water just keeps flowing back and forth without any problem. What I can say is this, that we're building, or the proposal to build this is not meant just for today or the next 2 years. It is meant for down the road. A competent and forward-thinking government will think about not the generation of now, but the generation to come. I think this is what the government is doing. And if the environmental impact is the main criticism, then I think since the Georgetown Harbor, as most of us already know, has already been compromised, at least for the last 3 or 4 decades, we've been hearing that the coral reefs in Georgetown and the seabed has been negatively impacted by the continual anchoring of ships. It is already has already been damage has already been done. Now, what I said is, I was told, and again, I'm subject to correction, but I heard that for coral reefs to go back the way that they were, it might take up to 100 years, 50, 75, maybe 100 years for those to grow back. Now, if that's the case, I would pose the question, would it not be better to do the development where there has already been damaged, particularly since there's the premier, the deputy premier, and Mr. Bodden last night, as well as the gentleman from, I think maybe he's from the Public Works Department on special projects. They explained in some detail that the dredging would now be minimized because the piers are going to go further out. And instead of doing a solid concrete structure, there would be the piling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having said that, and I'll be off soon, having said that, it seems to me that rather than putting this port in another facility where you'd have to dredge and excavate and damage another pristine site, maybe interrupting several dive sites in the area, because there are only certain areas around the island that could be considered as suitable to put a docking facility. It's not, I mean, we're surrounded by water, but that doesn't mean that any which way you go would be a good place to put docking facilities.
Right. Well, as I listen to you, we'll definitely get a chance to have the Honourable Premier and the Deputy, because they're standing by to join us, and maybe they'll pick up on what you shared. Maybe they'll add more. Any final thoughts, Mom?
Just to say that I am wholeheartedly in support of the cruise and cargo port facilities being built in Georgetown. I've expressed some of my thoughts on yesterday's press conference when the explanations were given and the diagrams and the artist rendition and everything was shown. When I heard about the cost as compared to the 300 or 400 million that we've been hearing, when I heard that the government is not in any way going into debt over this, and the facilities that would be in place to enhance our tourism product, there's so many positives to the plan that I can only support it. I thank you for your time. Have a good afternoon.
And to you too, Mom. Thank you so much for listening. We'll pause now and take a short break. Well, when we come back, chance to hear both from the Premier and the Deputy Premier. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
There are plenty of reasons to be a Logic customer. There's lightning fast internet connectivity. There's the great overall customer experience. And now you can improve your Wi-Fi connectivity with Logic Boost Wi-Fi for free. With Boost, you can extend your freedom to stream, game, and download seamlessly anywhere in your home, like your patio or your underground lair if you have one. Sign up now for any Logic Bundle package and get free Boost Wi-Fi for a limited time. Visit logic.ky for details.
The best back-to-school sale is now at Reflections. Buy one, get one half price on all back-to-school shoes. Over 100 styles of your favorite brands: Nike, Adidas, Puma, Reebok, and more. Back-to-school savings on shoes for toddlers, children, teens, and adults. Buy one pair, get the second pair half price. Or buy one pair of shoes and get a backpack half priced. The best back-to-school sale at Reflections. Now located on Shedden Road, across from Napa Auto Parts, beside Mango Tree. Reflections.
Did Did you know that the use of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs begin in adolescence? Studies show that the brain doesn't stop developing until the age of 25. So, don't harm yourself by putting alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs in your body. For more information, visit our website at www.ndc.ky or our Facebook page at National Drug Council, Cayman Islands. This message is brought to you by Radio Cayman and the National Drug Council.
89.9 Radio Cayman helps you to weather the storm during this hurricane season.
One of the most crucial elements of hurricane preparedness is storm awareness. During the season, it is of utmost importance to pay attention to the latest local weather forecast, as hurricanes do not suddenly form or strike. There are various methods of advanced notification. Utilizing such may be the difference between a favorable outcome and disaster. Both television and radio serve as excellent mediums with up-to-the-minute storm path information in the wake of a hurricane. Another method of tracking a hurricane may be only arm's length away. Your smartphone or tablet can be your most valuable tool before, during, and after a storm, providing countless numbers of apps with crucial hurricane information. Many apps allow you to track storms with moving radar and satellite imagery, plus offer alerts, current conditions, forecasts, advisories, and even video.
This hurricane preparedness tip was brought to you by your community radio station, Radio Cayman, 89.9 FM.
We are Radio Cayman, and this is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Sing your praise to the Lord. Come on, everybody, stand up and sing one more. Hallelujah, give your praise to the Lord. We are united in Jesus Christ. We are the soldiers of the land.
Praise time.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
There's a meeting up in heaven. Roll call. He's a name in the Lamb's Book of Life. Roll call, brother, sister. Roll call. If you don't stop shouting, if you don't stop dancing, we're going to put you out of our church.
Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, yeah.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Your song flowed through my lips. Your work moved through my hands. Your thoughts stay on my mind. Live in me.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you so much for joining us. And momentarily we'll also have the excellent company of the Honourable Premier. But now, he has certainly left the governance in the good, capable hands of the Honourable Deputy Premier. And he's brought along, this probably increasing the way Ms. Susan reminds me. This is where you get YouTube, so people can see that your guests not only competent, but they personable and equally, charming to look at. So their Chief Officer, Mr. Fran Borden, I tell you about it, they've grown almost as nicely in the brack as they do in West Bay. So good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Sterling.
It's fun, man. It's a Tuesday. Honourable Minister, thank you for joining us as well this afternoon. Hopefully this voyage will be like a catboat going up to the quay. But we'll see how it works. So good afternoon to you, sir.
Hi, Sterling. Thank you very much for having us on. Certainly want to have a big shout out for Cayman Brack and Little Cayman and all the listening public. So thank you.
Indeed, man. I honestly sometimes have to wonder, if my roots not in the Brack as well, but I can't be perfect, so I have to stick with just West Bay. But it's an amazing country. 3 islands, 1 experience, 1 great people. But sir, it looks like we've come to another milestone with respect to the port project. So we're honoured to hear more. We got a chance to listen to not only the Premier's statement to the Legislative Assembly on Friday, but equally the press briefing yesterday as well. So we certainly defer to you, sir.
So, thank you very much again. I think it's good for us to start off about the press conference and the announcement that was made. Obviously, the government was extremely pleased to announce that Verdant Isle Port Partners had been announced as the preferred bidder. And it's very important to understand who's involved with that. It's McAlpine, a company well known to all of us here for many years of a lot of hard work and infrastructure building. Carnival Cruise, one of our partners, one of the largest lines in the world. Royal Caribbean, one of the largest cruise lines in the world. And Orion Marine, which might not be a household name, but certainly if you have been around the docks in Cayman and Cayman Brac, you know that Meisner Marine does a lot of the dock work and has done a lot of dock work. They were purchased and amalgamated with Orion Marine, so they bring a lot of expertise as well. I think it's common knowledge that they also built the dock in Cayman Brac, which is a dock that's built on pilings, which is one of the talking points that we want to make sure people understand clearly about that. So I think that we only have an hour and a half today. I think there's been a lot of questions about this infrastructural project. We're happy to field questions. We're happy to talk about the importance of the cruise berthing facility for our overall tourism product. We're happy to look at it from the standpoint that we have two pillars in our country, and my ministry has the responsibility to grow tourism. As a government, we realized that we had to balance the development of our financial industry and our tourism industry. So we are very pleased. We're pleased with the growth of the tourism product between stayover and between cruise tourism. We're leading the region, 11% growth in the first 6 months of stayover. Average daily rate price, top in the region, one of the top three in the region. Obviously, that means that more money is spent in Cayman, which is what our responsibility is in developing tourism. Our cruise is down 5% for the first 6 months this year, but it's a very integral and important part of our product mix. So we believe that the cruise berthing facility, based on recommendations by PwC and business case that was done, is extremely important for us to stay in to growing our tourism product, and it's one of the necessary infrastructural demands that the country has. So we are pleased where we are, and look forward to moving forward as quickly as we can.
All right. Well, certainly as we go to our news break, Mr. Strand, any initial thoughts you may want to share with us?
As Deputy Premier has said, Sterling, this point we are at now brings it to a point where we can share a lot of information, and I think that was the goal, that was the aim for yesterday's press conference. We are here today to basically go over that again, but also to take questions as well from the public. That obviously was only the media there yesterday, so we think that the arrangement we've came to the bid that has been submitted under the structure is a very good one, and we look forward to progressing it, developing it. This is just the preferred bidder stage, but continue to now formally work with the preferred bidder to move the project forward.
Okay, well, with that, then we'll just pause quickly, go to our news break. When we come back, we'll also have the excellent company of the Honorable Premier. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
Let's read the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Headlines. Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headlines. These are the biggest stories right now.
With your latest headlines, I'm April Cummings. The Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure wants to encourage more environmentally friendly vehicle ownership across the Cayman Islands. So it's reducing customs duties on electric and hybrid vehicles. Electric vehicles costing $29,999 or below will now attract zero tariffs to customers importing those vehicles for personal use. Individuals importing hybrid vehicles of $29,999 or below for personal use will now pay 10% in import tariffs. We'll have more for you tonight on Radio Cayman News at 6. In international news, a plainclothes police officer had forgotten his gun the night he was fatally stabbed during a confrontation with 2 American teenagers in Rome. That according to an Italian police commander today. The commander said even if the officer had been armed, he would not have had time to draw his weapon before he was mortally wounded with a military-style knife. The U.S. Education Department is being urged to close a loophole that has allowed some wealthy families to get federal aid meant for low-income students. Federal authorities have been notified that some parents in Illinois were transferring guardianship of their children to friends or relatives to make it appear they came from poorer backgrounds, making them eligible for more financial aid. Officials at the University of Illinois reported the scheme after finding several cases there. School officials say it appears legal, but takes away from limited funds meant for needy students. Those are your headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. I'm April Cummings.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman. Sometimes things just don't go as planned. That's why you need Contractors All Risk Insurance from Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Ensure you're covered in the event of property damage and third-party injury or damage claims during your construction projects. And with Fidelity Insurance Brokers, you can be sure you are getting competitive pricing and superior customer service. Call us today for a free quote. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Under the distinguished patronage of the Honorary Jamaican Consul, JN Money, in association with Michelle T. and friends, present Jamaica 57th Independence Gospel Fest, Sunday, August 4th at the Lion Center. Celebrate with Sandra Brooks, Prodigal Son, Chosen, Kevin Heath, Preaching Policeman, Laverne Welcome, Women of Purpose, and Michelle T. Also, Roderick Brown, Light of the World Dance Ministry, and many others. Delicious Helsha-style fish and more. Breakfast from 8 a.m., followed by lunch and dinner. $25 pre-sold, $30 at the gate. Tickets at Funky Tangs, Mango Tree, Fix-It Celtronics, Mac Russ, J&M Electronics, Famous Restaurant, Angel Supplies, and JN Money. Sponsors Realwood Cabinets, Superior Auto and Central, Fix-It Celtronics, M Creations, Caymanian Times, Hot 104, The Voice, Praise FM, Breeze FM, and Radio Cayman. Jamaica 57th Gospel Fest with Michelle T. and friends. MC Basilia Barnaby Cuff at the Lion Center, Sunday, August 4th at 6 in the evening.
RC Fusion featuring Billboard pop hit songs and more from the 70s to the 90s.
RC Fusion.
Weekdays from 10 a.m. till 12. RC Fusion.
Brought to you by Tasty Patties. Baked fresh every 30 minutes. Available at Tortuga Express Industrial Park and Bake It and Take It on Eastern Avenue. Get tasty now.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you so much for joining us. In the studio, the Honorable Premier sits with us, the Honorable Deputy Premier, together with Chief Officer, Mr. Strandbod. Gents, I feel like the only thing missing is a couple of hands of, what do we say, bananas, a few a few cards to shuffle, and we can get some games on now. So thanks very much. Is that better, Mr. Premier? All right. Well, welcome, sir. And as listeners just joined us, we're going to be talking about the cruise port facility. The Honorable Deputy Premier gave us a brief outline as we go into our news break. But, sir, respectfully, if you wish to have any initial thoughts as we get into our discussion.
Just want to say good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. Delighted to be here to talk about this very important project with you and with the callers and with the broader listening public.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kirkconnell, you were sharing earlier, and I think if I did misunderstand, during the press briefing yesterday as well, you referenced that Virgin Island Port Partners is a company, and you shared just then that it was important for us to understand the grouping. could we ask you just a little bit more clarification? Is it a locally registered company with these entities? How is the port partners structured? The Virgin Island Port Partners.
So it will be a locally registered company. So as it stands now, those are the 4 members of what we call the consortium, the group.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, and then with respect to the financing and some of the earlier press briefings, some of the cruise lines were indicating that they would be willing to come on. Disney, for instance, I think one that stands out. Any rules for them, and to what extent if they do?
I think take my time and go through it.
Yes, sir.
One of the things that we wanted to do was to make sure that the playing field was level and that financing was available. That also triggered the berthing right, as it was called, for the cruise lines themselves, which is extremely important to the Port Authority. So when the cruise lines, Royal, Carnival, Disney, and MSC, agreed to offer a certain percentage of financing, along with the percentage of financing also came a certain number of berths that they were bidding on, so to speak. Now, the important part about this is that the winning bidder did not have to accept the offer of financing, because if the winning bidder could arrange financing for less percentage, obviously it would be not only to their advantage but to the country's advantage to get the least costly money for them to build the project, which pays out to government. The other important part of that to be understood is that this is vested in the Port Authority of the Cayman Islands. So the idea of how will the berthing arrangement be handled? It'll be handled through the Port Authority. The Port Authority will allow them, based on the preferred berthing agreement, to come and to dock. The payment will go to the Port Authority. Then the Port Authority, as in most commercial deals, will be the receiver, and they will pay out to the bills that are involved, meaning that they will pay out the consortium out of the money received, and they will pay out the government out of the money received.
And then from what we've seen with the graphics, there will be 4 slots, 4 berths for 4 ships. And will there be any sort of consideration for the other ships, first off, and then secondly, how many other ships, if any, would be at the port at a time?
There's 2 anchorages that will continue to be active. We believe that's what the need is going to be. And on the north side of the visual that was presented, there was also the tender dock. Mm-hmm. So that's for overflow, and that's for scheduled vessels that are coming when the 4 berths are taken.
And then for those 4 berths, you shared sort of preferred the berthing agreement. How would that work? Would it be if the companies, the cruise lines that participate, get preference, or how does that work?
Well, in the same way that they have committed early on to participate in the financing of the project, mm-hmm. their commitment put them in line for preferred berthing, percentage-wise of how much they agreed that they would finance. So that moves to the Port Authority, right? And they actually identified days that they wanted for preferred berthing. Mm-hmm. And that was done on historical data of when they had come before, what days were needed. And the other very important thing is that the Port Authority now has the ability to try to level this. So the peaks and valleys of Tuesday, Wednesday that are going to be more people arriving, you're trying to encourage the cruise lines to look at leveling this, which gives them the ability to look at some of the route they have in this western side of the Caribbean, meaning that instead of coming down from Cape San and coming straight into Cayman, they might want to go to Falmouth and then come back to Cayman.
Now, we note, if I may just revisit that, we note that in the early 90s there were some attempts at limiting the number of ships for different reasons, the experience and the management of the capacity and the like. Going forward with the new facility, would there be something similar that on any one day no more than X ships, or are we just depending on the demand?
Good question, Sterling. So what we have said, as we know, there are 4 berths. What we estimate, the largest ships now are something like 6,000 passengers. So that's 24,000. We're talking about anywhere between 25,000 to with ships on anchorage as well, 30,000 passengers per day as a top-end maximum, yeah? And that would only be, we would imagine, during the high season, so anywhere from January to March. It would then scale down from there for the rest of the year.
Right. And the reference earlier was to the phrase, the preferred bid of fees. That's the fees. What does what does that mean exactly?
So the preferred bidder stage, where we are now, the government has identified with cabinet support the preferred bidder to build the project. But there's no contract agreed, certainly no contract signed as yet. So the preferred bidder stage is to get to that stage where both parties are happy with the contract. And then cabinet would then review the terms as well and sign off on it. So that is the preferred bidder stage.
Okay. I know that we had shared the Deputy Premier reference having a caller. So we do have a caller online. In the studio, the Honourable Premier, Honourable Deputy Premier, together with Chief Officer Borden. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Hello.
Hey, good afternoon, sir.
Yes, I'm speaking about the dock.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I asked this question before. Where the fire and beach, that land sold.
The land is sold.
Did you know that? I asked you that too last time.
Yeah, sorry I missed the first part. Which property, sir?
The Highland Beach.
Oh, yeah, the Galleon Beach.
Yeah,
or Pageant Beach.
Yes, yeah. And this house.
Mm-hmm.
Then further back to the office, 7-Eleven,
mm-hmm.
where they got where all this land. Yes, they know where foot the got spot and so they get chief at least. Where they doing this, the people down there are going to walk to the beach.
Okay.
How much time I'm going to tell you guys that?
Right.
It's sure that they can walk to the beach. This Mr. Varnell, they're lying.
All right. So we'll ask them. Thank you, sir. And perhaps part of the question, as I understand it, certainly you can help me to interpret the construction area, the size and scope of the project. Where is it exactly going to go?
Yeah, I thought I interpreted from that the caller thinks that the construction area, if I may call it
mm-hmm.
that, the affected area and the proposed development area would extend down to Mr. Arthur's
mm-hmm.
and by Burger King,
right.
and all the way down to Pageant, what used to be Pageant Beach, the wharf.
Right.
That's not in the cards at all. But I'll let the minister, Deputy Premier, deal with that.
Yes, sir.
No, Premier's absolutely correct. I think the interpretation was he was worried about how people would get off the vessel and how they would get to a beach. And by Pageant Beach area being sold and going to be developed, now that would have been the closest beach. Obviously, the need for upgrading the facility is that when people get off the vessel, they will get to the attraction quicker. They'll have a quicker dispatch with taxi, tour operators, private vehicles, however they're going to be dispatched. That's all part of the development that's in the plan, was in the visual. And then it also feeds right into the revitalization of Georgetown, what happens on Front Street and what happens to people when they come ashore and what they're going to do. The other part of it is that in having a longer time in the port, I don't think that's a discussion point of how much longer. We say 2, 3, some people say 1 or 2, but we know factually the ships will stay longer in Georgetown, and that'll give the ability for East End, North Side, Baden Town, all the outlying West Bay districts with the infrastructural improvements that this government is doing with the road system. It'll give the ability for the country itself to benefit more from the tourism, the cruise tourism product.
Now, as we look at perhaps part of the sentiments expressed by the last caller, if we could ask then, is there now a final design? We've seen the graphics yesterday. Is there now a final construction design as to where the project would be, what it would look like?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. What we showed yesterday was the artist's rendering of it,
Right.
but we have working drawing plans to match that artist rendering as well.
Okay. And I guess to lay the call on anybody else is fair, it does not extend all the way down. Yeah, that chair came from Rooster, so they sent it over for you. So we'll send it back.
I appreciate that.
And in the studio, ooh, thank you, Mr. Premier. And no, from that perspective, the cost. So sorry, Mr. Borden. No, we'll keep on, Miss Susan. Not to worry.
So let me jump in here a minute and try to bring some sanity back here.
Thank you, sir.
The question of, is that the final design? I think that leads right into why have we not been able to talk about the price, about the design, about the layout. All of those things went into the bid itself, preferred bidder coming out of it, of the design, the build, the finance, and the maintain model, which is what we're doing in this Triple P.
Right. And as we look at the information that Mr. Borden was sharing yesterday related to the costs, there was speculation, as you shared in the past, that the project could be this amount. We're fairly confident that the cost will be around 200 and small million.
Right. So, again, one of the things that the opponents of the construction of the cruise port and now the cruise and expansion enhancement of the cargo port, one of the things that they have used to convince many people that this was a dangerous project and the government wasn't being transparent, and in some cases, in the case of the Deputy Premier and myself, we were corrupt and various other complimentary things like that. On this very show and at this very radio station, many times, what they've used against us to convince many people was the fact that we were unable to provide details about the design, about who would build it, how it would be financed. And that's because, as the Deputy Premier has said, the whole structure of the arrangement of the deal is that the successful bidder, will design, build, finance, and maintain the port. And that structure, that PPP structure, came about principally because when we took office back in 2013, the government was not in a position to borrow any money. We were still getting our budget approved by the UK, and there was absolutely no borrowing possible. And so we had to come up with a novel, unique way to go about this project if it was to happen at all. And many very good things come out of austerity and pressure, because you're forced to be creative and thoughtful about how you go about these things. And it's taken a long time. This bun has been in the oven a long time, but we are absolutely delighted with the result that we now have, and we are now in a position where we can talk in detail about those key factors which were causing people concern and causing immense speculation and being used against our opponents, by our opponents against us, about the design, about who's going to build it, how it's going to be financed.
Okay, yes, we do have another call online, sir. All right, let's go to our phones. Good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, Mr. Alden.
Yes, sir. How you do?
Yeah, feeling around, boys. Are you good?
Yes, man.
Right here. Mr. Alden.
Yes, sir.
The last I talked to you, right, about the port, right? You know how you feel about it, right?
I know how you feel about it, yeah.
Yeah, to the marks, right? And I reckon I might want a bit, don't even know, right? And the people I work with, quite cool. They agree with it, and we did. You understand, Mr. Alden?
Yes, sir.
Because like, I listened carefully yesterday, it's 197 million, right?
Yep.
And if you move hesitant or reluctant towards it, there's a better remorse. You understand? Down the pipeline, 10 years now, 50 years now, $500 million. Get over it. You understand? Look here. That cargo, right? That's the epic center. 4 decades now. In their facelift, Mr. Alden. You know, go right? Their facelift. The front there.
Yeah, but what's being proposed is more than a facelift, though. It's going to expand the area, the operational area, by about 30,000 square feet. So it's not just the facelift that's being proposed for the cargo port.
All right. That's ma'am. I agree the magnitude. All right, Mr. Alden. Okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Cool.
All right, thanks very much, Mr.
Thank you. The Premier talked about when we started looking at these infrastructural projects that were demands on our economy, demands on our tourism product. One was the airport, one was the cruise berthing facility, and one was the hospitality school. We're extremely pleased with the hospitality school and the graduates and their successes that they're having. The airport, again, was managed under the guidelines that we had to work with in the framework of fiscal responsibility. And the difference is, although it was a smaller project, we found the money that it didn't have to come into being a triple P and taking a partner. The government was actually able to look at it and look at a cash flow basis for the financial aspect of it, and then government got in a better position. We were able to put some money in to make it about 6 months earlier coming into use. So we've grown our product. We've grown our arrivals. We've hit a trigger that the airport is now going to be expanded quickly and quicker, lengthening the runway, more taxi ways, more apron. That's all starting in September. And then we have to move and look at how we go into the greenfield and put more gateways and jetways and the things that the country needs and grows. But the aspect of what we were able to do with the Triple P is because we had to find a way for a partner to come that could actually be involved and finance it, and with the help of PricewaterhouseCoopers and their business case, the design of the Triple P is something that's been used globally, and I think it's going to work quite well for the country.
All right. We do have a couple of the callers online. Good afternoon. Thank you for listening and welcome. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Dwayne, and good afternoon to your guest there, the Premier. I think Mr. Strand Borden is there with you as well.
As well as the Deputy Premier.
Good afternoon to you, sir, and thanks for calling.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for that, Sterling. And good afternoon to the guest there. This is Dwayne Ebanks. You know, I'm a supporter of this project, this port. I believe in it. It's the way for the future. I just want to first of all publicly congratulate the Premier and the Deputy Premier for their stance on this project. We've been talking about this, forever, and it is about time that it really comes to fruition. And I'm glad to see that we're at this stage. And also glad to see that the final bidder, the awarded bidder, is not the Chinese group. Thank you very much for that as well. But this project, the social economic benefits of this project far exceeds the cost and what little environmental damage may be caused or may not be. But it is definitely a huge plus for the country going into the future, and that's what this project is all about. The future. It's not about us. We're not doing this for ourselves, as some have said, but rather for the future generations to come. We can't continue on with what we have there in Georgetown now. That's already to its limit, I would say, and it certainly needs improvement and have a modernized facility there. Also, want you guys to know, even though they've been pretty much quiet, your efforts are really appreciated by many in the industry. Like I said, even though they've been pretty quiet, I can tell you that 75% of the service operators are looking forward to this project being completed.
Sean, if you don't mind me interrupting you now, but we need them to become noisy again. If we are going to face a referendum, we need to win that referendum convincingly. And the way to ensure that happens is for those who are affected or will be affected most by the port project not going ahead to speak out and let everyone in the community understand how critically important this is to their lives and their livelihoods. And so we are going to actually organize a meeting very soon to talk to you folk and others who are affected or will be affected if this doesn't happen, about the importance of your campaigning. I'm being very open about it, campaigning very hard for this to go ahead.
All right.
And I'm sure, I was going to mention that maybe now that we got to this stage, we can have a couple of town hall meetings or whatever, and try to get get the word out there even more. But one other thing one question I have, and it is a question on a lot of the minds of the people who support this project. Like I said, most of the service operators. When construction does start, is there a plan being devised, or is it something that in place that we're going to be able to keep the current ships that we're getting now, or is that going to have to decrease for construction, or what is the plan with that? Because we certainly don't need to, if we're going to take 2 or 3 years to complete this project, we certainly can't afford to have any decreased business in that time as well.
Sean, that's a great question. So there's a phasing plan in place. It was stated at the press conference there's actually 9 phases that, similarly to the airport, when we had to keep the airport operational, the cruise port and the cargo port will still remain operational throughout the construction. So the phasing, the time it takes to build it will be done in phases in order that the operations of both cruise and cargo can continue.
All right. Sean?
Okay. I got that. All right. Well, I hope that is something that we can keep going, because certainly a lot of people, that's one thing that is on a lot of people's minds at the moment, and rightfully so. Because like we said, we can't afford to lose business or decrease numbers if we don't have this port, and while we're building it, we certainly still can't afford to have any decrease in business, really.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons why I'm putting this question out to you guys, because it's a concern. It's a genuine concern.
Sean, it was a really good question. I just want to add to what CO has said. When you think about the partners being Carnival and Royal, one of the things that's top of mind for them is how do the cruise lines continue to get their people to market? So part of the actual bidding process had a plan that had to be submitted on how they would continue to have the arrivals to give the country the economic uplift that it needs from the cruise industry.
All right. Hey, thanks very much. And we do have some other callers online, but a quick break to take as well. And we'll join our callers, the Honourable Premier, Honourable Deputy Premier, and Chief Officer Mr. Borden, our guest. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Have you heard of Taster's Choice Cafe, home of the $3 special? With small breakfast and lunch starting at only $3. You heard right, starting at only $3. Also serving full menu options including curry goat, oxtail, ackee and saltfish. Fill your belly without emptying your wallet at Taster's Choice, 351 Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, across from Ashley Furniture in Industrial Park, or call 945-9113. Taster's Choice, home of the $3 special.
Headlines. With the latest headlines.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio K-Man for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of K-Man's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Turning to international news.
Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio K-Man News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Do you have a business in the tourism industry? The Cayman Islands Department of Tourism wants you to get listed on their website. Visit CaymanIslands.com. It's absolutely free and will give your business added exposure on the #1 visited tourism site for the Cayman Islands. Learn more and get listed at www.visitcaymanislands.com/sign up. That's www.visitcaymanislands.com/sign up. Don't wait. Sign up today.
JN Money Transfer, in association with Roma United Sports Club, present the official Jamaica Independence celebrations on Friday, August 2nd. Daytime activities take place on Cardinal Avenue from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. with the best Jamaican food, arts and craft display, free sampling and free health checks. Don't miss the free lunch hour concert, plus lots of prizes and giveaways. Nighttime concert over at Crown Square on Eastern Avenue, featuring international reggae and dancehall superstar Wayne Marshall, alongside Paul Train, Dream Chasers dancers, plus lots of local performers. Come participate in the Kids Talent Contest, Best Dress Competition, Dance Contest, and Hot Wings Eating Contest. Music by DJ Marcus. Come out early to win a 40-inch TV, plus lots of giveaways and prizes. Admission is free. Sponsored by Popeyes, Best Dressed Chicken, Magnum, People's Choice Grocery, Superior Auto, Ideas Marketing, Kmart Hair and Beauty Supply, Danny's Auto, Breeze FM, and Radio Cayman.
For the Health of It is heard on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and on Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. It is brought to you by Holy Cross Hospital. Quality medical care and advanced technology with sincere compassion and understanding. Our mission is you. Call 1-954-351-5906 or visit Holy Cross Hospital at holy-cross.com.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. In the studio, we have the excellent company of the Honourable Premier, the Honourable Deputy Premier, together with the Chief Officer, Mr. Strand Borden, and we're talking about the cruise birthing facility project. And a couple of callers online, gents. We'll just go straight to the phones. Hey, good afternoon, welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, how are you?
I am blessed and highly favored. Now, I have two concerns that I would like to get answers to. Number one is the amount of people that signed against this report. They were verifying the names of signatures. Up to this day, I am one who signed against it, and no one has even come to verify my signature. And I don't know what became of that. Number two is look at Hurricane Ivan. When we had Hurricane Ivan, we had seawater past the post office, right? And a couple of months ago, when we had a nor'wester, we had the sea was breaking at Emsley Memorial Church wall. Now, digging out there to put a dock out there, there's no consideration for the Caymanians' lives or the people that live on these islands' lives. You understand? So, I mean, they don't stop and consider the effect that it would have on the island. Is everything about money? Not everything is about money. I mean, why do a go about money way and people not around to earn the money? What then? Because, I mean, that's a dangerous something that they're doing out there. We are already below sea level, and I'm pretty sure the whole Cayman Islands know that we're already below sea level. The dredging out there, we will have water coming down by Rogelio Car Wash from the ocean. We all need to stop and think a little about what you guys are doing and the danger you're putting the Cayman people into, because that's a serious issue. I agree we need a facilities for the tourist stand. I agree with that, but I sure don't agree with it out there knowing what transpired in Hurricane Ivan and what transpired in the Nor'wester a couple months ago. So, I mean, it would be very nice if you guys would consider the Caymanian people and with the safety of our people on this island before doing that. Money is not everything. It's not all about money. Money is the root of all evil. Our lives are more at stake. Have a good afternoon. I wait to hear the answer.
Thank you for your call, gents.
Okay, thank the caller for the call, and obviously acknowledge the passion and deep feeling she has about this project. We're going to speak to the issues that she raised about safety and so forth. But on the first point, she says no one has come to verify her signature. So that's not something that we're involved with at all. That's being run by the elections office. We're completely out of the loop. We get reports like everybody else does about the progress, but that's it. But someone should come to her place. I'm not sure where she resides. I believe she sounds like a Georgetowner, but Georgetown's a pretty big district. But she can always do one of two things: call the elections office and say, I'd like my signature verified. Would you send somebody to this address? Or she can go down herself to the elections office and ask to verify it.
So Smith Road
on Smith Road, yes.
Yeah. Okay, that big building there.
Right.
All right.
So I'll leave those two good gentlemen who are with me, who are much more au fait with the design, or proposed design of this thing, to address these issues about essentially flooding or overflow into Georgetown up to Rogelio's. But I'll just say this: it is not correct to say that the Cayman Islands is below sea level. If it was below sea level, we'd all be underwater, because there are no walls around the island to keep the water back, like it is in Holland, for instance. So we're not below sea level. We're just a few feet above it, but we're most definitely above sea level.
All right.
I'll just say a couple of things, and I'll leave it to CO. Picking up on the Premier's point, obviously, if you've been to New Orleans, you see the levees, and you see what it's like to live in a city that is below sea level. We're absolutely not below sea level. And I think it's a good question. Thank her for calling in, for her to get some more clarification. Obviously, the government is very concerned about that type of overflow of the sea and the wave action, to the point where it was actually addressed in the construction documents. So let CO speak to that, but I think that the point is that the way the bidder came in, there's a provision to address the exact issue that she's talking about.
Okay. And thank the caller as well for the question. So there's a number of provisions built into the design, as Deputy Premier said, and as Premier said earlier, we had to wait to get the design done. So the bidders were designing it, building it, proposed to build it, finance it, and maintain it. So the design includes wave walls. The dock itself will be built to hurricane standards. This is what actually is driving the cost as well. We're not building in a protected harbour. Georgetown is a completely open water harbour open to the elements. There's no protection, so that will be built in as well.
Right. Yes, we do have a number of callers as we join our phones. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today. Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for calling.
Yes, Robert Hamilton here. Just calling in to congratulate the government on making this decision. I have been at this for the advancement of cruise tourism from the late 90s. And I was also the chairman of the Royal Water Tenants Association, the chairman of the Port Advancement and Beautification Committee, a committee that was appointed by Mr. McKeever Bush in 2002, I believe it is. And we have been to many different meetings to try to accomplish this. The people said you're billing the port for Tortuga Rum Company and other merchants. So maybe I should be telling you thank you for spending $200 million to support me. But, it is one thing that we have to remember. When Mr. Jim Budden was borrowing $12 million to build it, to do the new airport, he was criticized a lot. And today we spent over $50 billion just to upgrade it. Today's money is not tomorrow's money. And we'll be long gone. At least I will be anyway, when people look back and says, my God, it's only $200 million, and look what revenue this has produced and how many jobs it's created for the people of the Cayman Islands.
Robert, the most beautiful thing about this is that I like your analogy, except that we're not spending our own money. That's the most beautiful part of this deal. Government is not having to put in any money. Government is not having to borrow any money. It's all going to be financed entirely from the fees that the cruise passengers pay to come and have the privilege of visiting the island. So that really, I think, is the most beautiful element of the whole arrangement, certainly from my perspective.
All right. Hey, thanks very much, sir, for sharing. And gents, there's another caller. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today. Hello. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Back on with you, am I?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks again. What I wanted to ask the Honorable Premier and the Honorable Deputy Premier and Mr. Barton, I know that there have been a number of people who have complained, in particular, that the dredging and the development of the Georgetown Harbor would probably destroy so much of the seabed and the coral reefs. Am I correct in saying, and I have brought this point forward before, that the seabed and coral reefs in Georgetown have been compromised for decades? But having said that, was there any particular site which had been put forward to government as an alternative site? Now, my big thing on this was, why move it from what has for generations been the preferred site for docking of ships? One, but two, if the seabed and coral reefs have already been compromised there, was there an alternative site which would not have required dredging, excavation, and probably the destruction of reefs and the seabed in order to develop the necessary infrastructure for cruise and cargo port facilities? I don't know that I have heard. I know that probably 5 or 6 years ago, there was something being put forward, or some individuals were saying the best place to put it was in the Red Bay dock, just on I guess would be the upper eastern end of near to South Sound. I have heard nothing further about that. But the other thing I'd like to say while I'm online, I'm also aware of the fact that maybe as many as 40% of the cruise ship passengers who arrive in Cayman do not disembark. They are not eager to ride the tenders. But in addition, many of those are senior citizens who either use wheelchairs or walkers or canes, and they do not like getting on and off the tenders. Having said that, there are two things that I think should be borne in mind. When you promise an individual that they are embarking on a cruise, on a trip, and Grand Cayman is going to be one of their ports of call. And as many of us know, Grand Cayman is a preferred port of call. What do you then say to these individuals when they can't even as much as get to shore? But in addition, senior citizens in particular are also individuals who are known to spend money. They buy things. They like souvenirs. They like taking things home for children and grandchildren. And those who have spent millions to have their stores and other, duty-free shops or whatever it is in Georgetown, it is important that we remember that they've already spent that money, and we should do everything possible for them to get as much as a business from the cruise ship as anyone else. It will help with with all kinds of tours, the fishing tours, fishing maybe not that much, but certainly the North Sound tours and bus tours. Many of our young people coming out there, I understand there are going to be hundreds of jobs once this project is complete. So we need to look at this from the standpoint as what Cayman will benefit financially, not just now, but decades down the road, and certainly that if we were to place this in another location, untouched up to this point, we would be doing ourselves and generations to come a disservice.
Okay. Hey, thanks very much. I know we have some other calls, but any comments before we take the other calls?
I don't argue with anything the lady said.
All right. Susan, break and enter our phones. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Congratulations, it's a boy.
During the greatest events of your life, whether or not you have the right health insurance coverage should be the last thing on your mind. That's why at Fidelity Health, we are committed to helping you get matched with the right plan to suit you and your family. We offer a range of plans to suit your budget, plus access to a network of quality care throughout the Caribbean and the USA. You can relax and enjoy life's greatest moments when you are covered with Fidelity Health. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote.
King Sports Center Art of Fun Summer Camp is back from July 2nd to August 2nd. Now in its 15th year, the Art of Fun Camp is ideal for kids ages 5 through 10 with activities from football, basketball, dodgeball, squash, rock climbing, arts and craft, dance, singing, and more. Your child can practice physical and social skills while having fun in a safe and secure environment. For more info, call 946-KING. Like King's Sports Center on Facebook, and you can also find them on Instagram or call 946-5464. King Sports Center, providing you with all your fitness, recreation, and relaxation needs. Register before May 31st and save 10% on camp registration.
Cayman Water Company would like to advise the public of roadwork interruptions from Monday, July 29th through to Thursday, August 1st on West Bay Road by the mini roundabout between Galleria Plaza and Fidelity Bank. Roadwork will take place from 8 p.m. until 4 a.m. Traffic headed into Georgetown from West Bay will be diverted onto the Esterly-Tibbetts bypass. Traffic headed into West Bay on West Bay Road will not be diverted. There will be no access given to West Bay Road if trying to come off the Esterly-Tibbetts bypass. Drivers are asked to proceed with caution and obey all traffic signs as roadwork is conducted on the mini roundabout between Galleria Plaza and Fidelity Bank on West Bay Road from Monday, July 29th until August 1st from the hours of 8 p.m. until 4 a.m.
The Miss Cayman Islands Universe Committee is inviting you to our pageant on 17th August, 7 p.m. at the Ritz-Carlton. The committee continues to empower young Caymanian ladies to become role models in the community. So come out and see our 6 beautiful contestants vie for the title of Miss Cayman Islands Universe. The winner will represent us at the Miss Universe pageant. Get your tickets today at Funky Tangs and Sand Angels.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, and welcome back to Talk Today. In the studio, the Honourable Premier, the Honourable Deputy Premier, and Chief Officer Stan Borden, our guests, as we talk about the cruise berthing facility. Gents, we have a number of callers. Thank them so much for sharing and being patient as we go to our phones. Welcome, you're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Sterling.
Good afternoon, ma'am. How are you?
Good afternoon, Mr. McLaughlin, Mr. Cornell, and Mr. Borden.
Good afternoon to you, ma'am, and thank you for calling.
Good. These first few questions got be to Mr. Cornell. Mr. Moses, can you tell me, will all taxis have the privilege to drive up to the port to pick up? You can write them down and answer when I hang up. To pick up visitors, to bring them ashore, to take to tours and beach if they're not pre-booked on the cruise ship. You also been saying that the ships will stay longer. Can you tell me how the ships will be able to stay longer if they come into our port at 7 o'clock our time in the morning and they are due to pull up at 2 o'clock our time? And some of the main stores downtown Georgetown are not open until 9 o'clock our time. Remember, they got 2 times, right? Sometimes they even got 3 times. They got Cayman time, Texas time, and the U.S. time, that depending where the ship is coming from, right? So I wanted to look at put on consideration. And also, too, you just had Mr. Hamilton call there. He's on the boards and so forth. You know what I can't understand, Mr. McLaughlin and Mr. Cocorno? We needed a port downtown Georgetown for many, many years. And when Georgetown was raging with business, and I mean money-making business, the money was flowing down there. And nobody tried to build a port. And now that we want a port or need a port, I'm not for Georgetown. I would love to go elsewhere, but I'm just a one man. And now those that still got business downtown that is taken over by either their children or sometimes even some of them is the still owners there. They want a port downtown Georgetown. When their fathers and grandfathers had the money, and it was probably a lot cheaper and probably ease that they built that we wouldn't even realize now that, we got the port built and we have a port and, it's working and the weather's not as bad as we are now talking about. You understand where I'm coming from, Mr. McLaughlin?
Well, the only thing that I really take issue with about that is I don't know where you would put a port of this size in Cayman except on the lee side of the island. I don't know where else we'd put it. There's a reason why the old people developed the port down there, or it wasn't even a port, the anchorage down there, because it was the lee side of the island, and the majority of the year, except when the weather is really bad, hurricanes and so forth, that is the safest place and the calmest place in which to anchor. So I've heard from time I can remember proposals about putting it in the North Sound or South Sound. The amount of dredging that would take, I don't even think we'd get off the ground talking about it. Besides the fact, I think that either of those would be a disastrous idea. But I don't know where else, but where it is now that would be better, quite frankly.
So let me pick up on the two questions for me. Taxi pickup obviously is incorporated in the new design. It goes hand in hand with providing more opportunity and more time for people to come ashore. If they have to spend less time on the cruise berth and facility where the ship is docked, as they come ashore, it's easy and easier for them to find their taxi, find whatever they've booked, or book a tour as they are on land. The extended time, people aren't going to come earlier. The ship will stay later. So stores are open 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Stores are open 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Stores are open 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So that extra time will be met with attractions and things for them to do. The other part of it is that it goes back to creating opportunity, and infrastructure demand is when your country's growing. This infrastructure demand has been there for about, as Premier said, talked about for 20 years, but our 2 terms here, it was worked on from the very first day because it was started a term before the 2 previous ones. When I became minister, there was a business case being looked at that provided for it to go to the outline business case. So it has been a 2-term initiative for us. There's been much opposition every step of the way, as you well know and have heard, and I believe that it took the courage of the Premier and the courage of this government to move this infrastructural demand for this country forward.
All right. Hey, thanks for sharing. And I think we have some other callers joining us as well. Good afternoon. Welcome. You're on Talk Today. Hello. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, Dwayne.
How are you today, sir?
I'm good, sir. And you?
Oh, blessed, man. Almost handsome.
What a day to celebrate.
Well, not in the future as president, but...
What a day to celebrate. I got to say, congratulations, Mr. Premier. This is your critic, by the way.
Well, I got a few of them, so you have to narrow it down for me.
Oh, come on. You know me. You know who I am. That's the Premier. Good afternoon. Mr. Cranbody. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
I don't want to say much. I just want to call to say congratulations. It's about time that we get a modern port into this country. The country that has so much growth, and we've fallen back on our infrastructure. And this is one major piece of infrastructure we need to increase or improve on. And thank you all for that. And I think it's over 20 years that we've been trying to get that facility in the harbor.
Yeah, we're not quite there yet, but this is the furthest anyone's ever gotten. So we got to get over this referendum threat, and then we'll be really, as the old people say, we'll be cooking with gas.
I understand that, but I want to say another thing here. I've got a pretty good understanding of our ecology and the ocean because I've been in it a long time. And I hear people call in and talk about dredging the harbor is going to destroy Georgetown. Why? Georgetown already has 60, 70 feet of water. And when a hurricane comes, the hurricane brings what they call a rising tide, which is 15 to 20 feet high. So it's nothing you build or don't build will stop a hurricane from coming into town or in a part of the coastline. So I don't believe in that it will destroy Georgetown.
Yes,
and
sir.
It doesn't really make sense to me. But anyway, I'll let you go now, and I will say this again, Mr. Premier. You sure they're taking a page out of Mr. Trump's book on your economy? Because you're growing a great economy here.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks for calling. And I believe Ms. Susan says we have a couple other callers. Welcome, good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Very well. And yourself?
I'm good. Good afternoon to your panel.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
I'm not going to say too much about the port. But based on, I'm basing this now, this is the airport. I'm up here at the airport right now. I operate from the airport. I'm a taxi driver. My name is Jennifer Ebanks, just in case everybody wants to know. Anyway, it just had a good downpour up here, right? And based on the engineering that I've seen take place here, I mean, where they have us situated, it's out in the middle of the thing. You have to cross 3 lanes of traffic to get over to a taxi driver, right? When it's raining, they tell us to go back alongside the curb of the airport. When it's sunny, we got to go back to the spot that is designed now to have us. I wish that both of them, Mr. Kirkconnell and Mr. McLaughlin, could have been over here just a few minutes ago in this downpour that we just had here. The people can't get out of the airport without getting soaking wet. They can't. We're here, and I mean you can't get the luggage in people's car because it's pouring down rain. Right now it's just stopped, but now we're alongside of the airport over here. When it's sunny, they're going to want to put us back on the other side. I mean, we need to be in a spot where we're going to be like a permanent spot. And this cover is serving very little purpose. I mean, in a good way. That is not serving anything. The rain was beaten in here, and people are getting soaking wet. So something needs to be done about this airport situation. So, and I'm saying that because I mean, okay, they got this done, and it's not operating the way it should be. So I can't see us trusting them to go and build a dock. That's what I'm going to say today. Thank you.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you very much for the call. Certainly we'll call as soon as we get off the radio here. What we have done, and I think she'll have to admit that if she looks, she sees improvements going on every day on the outside of the airport, because we acknowledge that the canopies that were put there are not what we intend to end up with there, and there are some issues. But everything, and when you're driving things forward, you're growing your economy, there are always going to be some bumps in the road. That's one of them. And we have acknowledged that. We'll certainly see if we can't iron it out a little bit more. But there is work going on now to make the covering improved.
All right. So call Ms. Susan, or we got to do the news? Can we have some callers tonight? Let's go to the phones. Why not? Hey, good afternoon. Oh, she said no. See who's in charge? Gents, you thought I was in charge? All right, the news. To our callers, respect for this. Stay online. We'll get to you right after.
Follow Radio K-Man on Twitter. All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Follow us at twitter.com/Radio K-Man.
Radio K-Man.
Radio K-Man's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
With your latest headlines, I'm April Cummings. The RCIPS says its new victim care policy obligates all officers to notify victims about developments in their cases, things like arrests, within 72 hours, and to provide general updates monthly. Recognizing that shifts and irregular hours can sometimes make that difficult, police have also established a victim contact center in the Crime Analysis Unit with a dedicated phone line and an email answered by police staff during regular business hours. Victims or complainants in criminal matters who have a breakdown in communication with their investigating officer can reach out to the center by phone or email anytime and expect a response within 72 hours at the most, not including weekends. In international news, law enforcement experts in the U.S. say that it is time for event organizers to review their emergency plans. This after a deadly shooting at the Gilroy Garlic Festival in California that left 3 people dead, one of them a child, and a dozen hurt. Experts say the goal should be to find additional safety improvements as the peak of summer and fair season culminates with a series of open-air events that are notoriously difficult to secure. The Gilroy Festival included a perimeter fence, metal detectors, a bag search, and police patrols. But 19-year-old Santino William Legan cut through the fence and opened fire with an AK-47-style rifle before 3 officers fatally shot him, all in less than a minute. The Air Force general, nominated to be the U.S.'s number 2 military officer, has strongly denied allegations of sexual misconduct today, telling a Senate committee that he was falsely accused and did nothing wrong. Air Force General John Hyten told the Senate Armed Services Committee that the allegations were shown to be false after a, quote, fair and extensive investigation. The Air Force Office of Special Investigations reviewed the matter and reportedly found insufficient evidence to charge Hyten or recommend any administrative punishment. Those are your headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. I'm April Cummings.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
The Miss Cayman Islands Universe Committee is inviting you to our pageant on 17th August, 7 p.m. at the Ritz-Carlton. The committee continues to empower young Caymanian ladies to become role models in the community. So come out and see our 6 beautiful contestants vie for the title of Miss Cayman Islands Universe. The winner will represent us at the Miss Universe pageant. Get your tickets today at Funky Tangs and Sand Angels.
Did you know that in the event of a hurricane, water designated for the purposes of drinking, cooking, and bathing must be disinfected before use? Water may be disinfected either by boiling or through the use of chlorine bleach. To disinfect through boiling, simply leave the water on the fire for 1 minute after it begins to boil. To disinfect with bleach, add 3 ounces of chlorine bleach to every 1,000 gallons of water. If you are not able to smell the bleach in the water after 30 minutes, then add half of the amount of bleach that was added during the initial application. Recheck the water after 15 minutes to ensure that there is a residual bleach smell. A residual bleach smell is an indicator that the water has been properly disinfected. For more post-hurricane safety tips, visit DEH website at deh.gov.ky.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. In the studio, certainly is a wonderful day to be alive in the Cayman Islands. Honorable Premier, Honorable Deputy Premier, and Chief Officer Strand Borden joins us as we talk about the cruise port. Gents, a number of comments from the WhatsApp and email that we want to get to, so those who sent through, we won't be remiss, but also a few other callers. I think Ms. Susan gave them some bread and water during the break. Let's go see what happens. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Mr. Dwayne.
Hey, my friend. How are you today, sir?
All right. I get a little break from the heat.
Boy, lucky for you.
Lucky for me.
Yes, sir.
to your couple of smart guests up in the air, right? I want to ask them a couple of questions, if that's all right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do they believe the sea level is going down or going up?
Consensus? The up or down?
Rising.
Well, I think the caller is asking a rhetorical question. I think we all know that all indications are sea levels around the world are rising.
Mm-hmm.
Principal as a result of climate change is the belief. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So all right. So the next question now: when the cruise ships dock up to the dock, right? You're gonna have a pipe hooked up to the sewage system, or you're gonna just let them dump in the town?
No, they're not. They're not going to be allowed to discharge any type of effluent in the Cayman Islands or Cayman Islands water.
Any more than is the case now.
Okay, so if somebody over the balcony throwing some, cups or something overboard, what will happen?
Well, it'd be the same as the case is now. I mean, they're just anchored a few hundred feet offshore. So the only change in that respect is that they'll be able to come alongside a berthing facility, but the same rules about no discharge of effluent, no discharge, no littering, all of those rules which are currently in place would still apply.
Okay, so if we had another opportunity to raise the same amount of income the cruise ship is proposing, would you take it or would you just laugh?
Well, it's not really so much about income for government. It's about jobs and economic opportunities for our people that this is going ahead. We have, I don't know quite how old you are, but I remember as a boy when the first cruise ship started to come here on a regular basis. Southward, anybody remember the Southward? She used to call on Thursdays, one ship a week. That started in the mid 70s, and since then we have built an entire industry which supports hundreds of Caymanian jobs. There are far more Caymanians involved in one or other aspect of the cruise industry than they are in the stayover industry. For one reason or another, although there are many jobs in the stayover tourism, not many Caymanians are actually taking advantage of them. On the other hand, almost 100% of people involved in cruise in jobs created by the cruise industry are Caymanian. So that's why this is being done, and that's why we are so passionate about it. We have to ensure that our people are able to make good livelihoods. That's the bottom line.
All right. Anything else, sir?
I think he answered it, but I will go and rephrase it, but it's okay. I think he answered it.
Right. All right. Hey,
thanks for your call, man.
Thanks much. And one more call, Ms. Susan. All right. Good afternoon. Welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Hello.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Yeah, Dwayne, this is Kim Jackson.
Hey, Mr. Kim, how are you, sir?
I'm good, and good afternoon to you, panel.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kim. Good afternoon, sir.
Now, I don't want anybody to think that I just came out of the sky because I'm 82 years old.
Yes, Mr. Kim, we all know you and your history, sir, and we respect it immensely.
I work with the university, and what I learned, most people never learn in their life what I learned, because I am a person, I listen. They weren't teaching me, I was the captain of the boat. And me and Harry Roberts became friends. I can call him right now. And this man knows more about Cayman waters and stuff than anybody who can bring here besides poor old Bob Soto. Me and Bob do it. All right. start number one. If I was to tell you, I would like to meet with you all because I got long stories. But I just going to tell you this. The sand from 7 Mile Beach, now listen now, I'm not thinking this, I done it. We put dye in it, it goes to Pullman Down Pint South Sound. When it goes there, Mr. Mitchell had a dock there, I'm sure the Premier knows what I'm talking about.
Yes, indeed.
He had to put his boat out because he couldn't get to his dock. So these things, Kim Jackson know. And I'll tell you another thing now that you all might need to know. Off of the hotel, the Holiday Inn, the old Holiday Inn, let's put it that way. East of that, it's a hole. See? When they were digging the canal on the other side, now the North Sound, the mud was coming out of that. And we used to go there to show the people because you had lobsters and stuff. But the last time I went there, it was almost full of mud. And these things, a place in Georgetown, I don't call no name, they decided to build a pool. And they put 9 truckloads of cement in a hole. And they never seen where it went. These things is probably out there, somewhere about. And when we start to dig, I hope we don't run into the tunnels that I know is there, because Georgetown will be going mud. And the sand, going back to this now, the sand from 7 Mile Beach goes to Pullman Down Point. There's no ifs and ands about that. Because, I work with professional people. And you see, a prime example, now I want to bring it up. You see that little thing we had in November, whatever you want to call it, Northwest, I hear people calling it. We washed up,
Yes, sir.
I don't know what he's laughing about, but
I was laughing at you describing it, but as this little thing, people call it a nor'wester. That's what I was laughing about.
That wasn't a nor'wester, The wind was from the west. If that had been a nor'wester, post office had been full of water. You know why that government dock was built on 2 big dolphins, they call it, and it had a bridge over it. I don't know who it was. Stop that thing, and the water can't get out. You got a hole up in there, and the sea come in. One little sea come in. You got to go back out where it came from, and it gets bigger. Well, another one come, and it keeps on. And that's what happened. And I done all on the water work on that dock, and that was the reason for that being like that. And anybody can tell me that they seen a nor'wester, a bad one, that looked like that out on that dock? No, they can't. On the iron shore, but the water was going under that dock. So this is just a prime example. And listen, I'm not the captain of one of them ships, but I'll tell you one thing. If 2 ships is docked together, one on one side and one on the other, what I see on the paper, if something come, how they going to get out? Them captains on them ships, they're smart people, And a captain not going to come where you dredge if he can look out and see the bottom on his port side. He got to see it where he can turn around if emergency come.
So Captain, I just want to address quickly two of the points that you raised. The one that you raised about what they did with the cargo port when they put in the dolphins and blocked the movement of water, and you're concerned. This is what I discerned from what you said. You're concerned about the flow, the natural flow of the sand from 7 Mile Beach up to Pull-Madam Point. Those things have been taken into consideration in the design of the piers. The piers are not being built on dolphins, but are being built on
pilings.
On pilings, so that the movement of water will be largely unobstructed. And the second point is that this bidder, Verdant Isle Port Partners, consists of the two biggest cruise ship companies in the world as part of that partnership. So they are responsible for the overall design. So I would have to conclude that they and their technical team are comfortable with the design of the piers in terms of accommodating the 4 ships at a berth at any one time. I am not an expert in these things, and I don't profess to be, or I can only go by what the experts have told us, and the experts of the crew hired by the cruise ship companies themselves are responsible for the design.
Well, I agree with you. I just say, I tell you what I believe now. I never learned this, What I'm telling you, that you can kiss the 7 Mile Beach goodbye. I don't care what you do. If you dredge, you can dredge. Huh?
There's going to be some dredging inevitable, but not a great deal. Not under this new, the new configured design. And most of the dredging is relatively close to the shore because it goes back. As the water deepens, there's less dredging that will be necessary.
Once you start dredging, that sand is going to come, not the same day, and you can kiss that Mile Beach goodbye.
Well, that's not what the experts say. I mean, as I say, I'm not an expert. We have to go on the basis of the report that we have had done by Baird, which is one of the best of these type of marine engineering and ecological environmental experts in the world. So we have to go on the basis of that. None of us are going to do anything that we believe would risk what you've just described.
Listen, I know arguing about who you got,
No, I don't want to argue with you at all, sir. I'm just explaining to you how we've made the decision we've made, and that I don't know any other way or any better way in which you make these kind of really serious decisions without getting the best advice you can from the best experts in the world.
I'll find one of them that went under the water as long as I did out in Cayman. And I got the experience I got with a university. Work with the university. But I know you're not listening because, he's not going to say it. But remember, I would like to sit down with these professional people. Probably half of them can't swim. And let's talk, and I never told you half who I know, but I don't want to keep the thing going all day because
yes, sir. All right.
I could sit down a half a day talking with what I know and what I learned. So you can believe. You remember I told you 7 Mile Beach. Go on.
All right. Thanks very much, Mr. Kemp, for sharing.
Thank you, sir.
All right. I know we have some other callers. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon. Yeah, I've been listening to this whole conversation here, not all of it. And, I believe that all of the considerations that have been taken is what is perceived that should be taken. But I think there are a lot of other considerations that need to be programmed into this whole scenario. Now, I think the last caller there described some of the currents that move back and forth between in the bight, that is from Northwest Point to West Bay, to Southwest Point, so forth and so on. And I'd ask this question: have any of you ever jumped in a canoe and paddled down from the cemetery in Georgetown to the end of Henning Beach, West Bay? Now, you can answer the question after I hang up. But I think if you did that, you would get a real, I would say, rude awakening as to movement of currents, movement of the water, because as I know, or as I understand, you are going to put down big pilings out in the ocean out there, probably 6 foot square, maybe even more than that. And you can take a pencil and go down to the beach there and put a calic on the bottom of that and watch what happens to the water. And something that large out there is going to have a big effect on 7 Mile Beach. And as I said before, if you took a canoe, you probably couldn't do it in a catboat, and paddle down from the cemetery in Georgetown down to the end of Henning Beach in West Bay, I think you'd get a good awakening. In fact, all you have to do is go down into West Bay at this time, go out at the foot of Church Street, and just look at the wall there, or what has happened, or what happens there really on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, and you'll see how the beach has been eroded, and something that massive out in the middle of the ocean there is going to have a big effect on what happens to 7 Mile Beach. And 7 Mile Beach is the big draw that we have here. And I am not sure that the consideration in that light of what the effect that all of what's going to be going on out there is going to have on 7 Mile Beach has been fully considered. And I would advise you, I would ask you, for your own edification, go from the cemetery in Georgetown and go down to the end of Henning Beach in West Bay. Take a leisurely tour, and you'll see how these obstructions affect 7 Mile Beach. I know there's a lot of concern also about the way that the piers are being sited. They're the direction in which they're pointing, and maybe if Captain Paul is listening, he might tune into that or chime in on that, because those big ships, they're not a canoe that you can just maneuver around. And I just hope that before anything is done out there, that the level of consideration of what will happen to 7 Mile Beach when all of that superstructure is planted down out there, and the dredging especially. And the last caller, Cap Kim, has a lot of experience out there. He's probably spent more time in that bight between Northwest Point and West Point underwater than anybody alive.
All right.
Yes,
thanks, sir.
Thank you for the call. So the EIA that was done in 2014 into 2015, the reason that took the length of time it did, so it was a study that studied the currents, wave action, etc., but it was studied that it was done in the nor'wester season through the hurricane season year round. So we had the entire flows done, whether it was wind was out of northwest, whether it was out east, southeast, and the study is online, is on supportourtourism.com that the caller can go and look at. But the principal finding was that the flow was from north to south, from Bog Sand area in West Bay down south to I learned a new phrase today, Pulmadam area.
Point, that's Southwest Point.
Southwest Point.
Yeah.
So that is the situation that came out of that study that was, like I said, was done in 2014, 2015, and is online for the caller to go and have a look at.
So just let me say, by no means do we discount the experience and knowledge and expertise of the older Caymanian people, not just those who were seamen, but in that time, just about everybody, because Cayman was just such a seafaring place that had real knowledge of currents and winds and directions and all that sort of stuff. So by no means are we anything we saying discounting the tremendous experience of Mr. Loxley and Captain Kemp, for whom all of us have immense respect. But I want them and everybody to understand that we are not entering into this project lightly. A massive amount of time, money, and expertise has been spent on studying just those things. And Baird is one of the most respected marine engineering and environmental impact marine environmental impact companies in the world. And they have conducted this study. It's online. I can never remember. It's called
supportourtourism.com.
Supportourtourism, all one word, .com. And the entire report is there that anyone can go and read. One of the reasons why the pier design is what it is, which is on pilings rather than on dolphins, is because of the points that were raised both by Captain Kemp and by Mr. Loxley about the flow, the movement of the currents and the flow of the sand up from Bogasan Road up to Southwest Point. So the conclusion is that by using pilings rather than a solid superstructure, which would most definitely stop the flow or cause the flow to move around, the flow can still proceed through, largely unaffected and unaltered by the pilings. But I'm not the expert at all, but I invite both gentlemen and the broader public to go online, look at the report, see what the conclusions are. Now, as a result of the preferred bidder having been chosen, one of the next things that needs to happen is that Baird will go back now with these with this adjusted design, which is adjusted to reduce the amount of environmental impact by less dredging, principally by less dredging, and carry out what's called a scoping exercise to see again what the impact is likely to be of the proposed structure. So we've done everything by the book. We're still doing everything by the book. There is no mad rush to get it done. We know that this is going to be around for a long time. All of us are keenly conscious of the critical importance of the asset called the 7 Mile Beach. None of us will do anything that we believe has even the slightest chance of damaging that asset.
Let me finish up by saying, agreeing with Premier, Chief Officer, the input they've given. We also, in Baird's report, when it was ready, we had given a commitment to the country that if the experts came back and said that there was an issue with 7 Mile Beach, the project would be stopped. At the public meeting at Mary Miller Hall, Baird gave their findings and gave their opinions and fielded questions from the hundreds of people that were there that night. Made it well aware that all the information, as has been said, is online. We welcome people to look at it. We welcome people to ask more questions about it. Baird has been brought back on with the preferred bidder, so they'll be available to tap into some of this local expertise, which we certainly want to take advantage of. The other part that was mentioned was the captains themselves. And there's a sim center called Star Center in South Florida where all the captains go to and they model what takes place, and they model how they would get their vessels in and out. And so we can assume that because of the preferred bidder having access to that and using that this modeling will have been done before this and will certainly be done after this to make sure that the cruise berthing facility can be used properly by the ships.
All right. Gents, I still appreciate your time. If I could crave you just for a few minutes, one perhaps final call, a couple of comments from our emails and WhatsApps. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. You're on Talk Today. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello?
Hi, good afternoon.
Yes, hello. Thank you for taking my call. Good afternoon to your panel.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
I have just one sort of extended question. Can the panel clarify how many tons of coral will be relocated? Where will it be transplanted? And what percent of the $2 million price tag is assigned to mitigating the overall coral destruction and loss of natural capital, which belongs essentially to the Cayman people?
Okay. So the coral, is that information available, Mr. Premier?
I think some of it is, but they don't measure coral by the ton in the study. I think it's done by the expanse of the area that's affected.
So how many acres?
So I'll ask Mr. Bond to answer that. I don't have those things at my hand.
Mr. Bond?
Thank the caller for the questions. I actually don't have, with what Premier just said, it's not measured in tons. So the area would be gridded out over what is needed to dredge for the ships to come in, and the coral will be transplanted. It will be transplanted. I think the measurement is somewhere like between a kilometer and a mile to the north of the facility. So it will be taken, it'll be clipped, kept on the water, and transported on the water using carriages with balloons or bag balloons that float it to the what's called the recipient site, and then that will have pegs that is transplanted to and that is added to that site. I know the cost that was estimated was approximately $12 million to complete the coral relocation.
Was there a range, 12 to like 50 million or something? We saw one study, or no?
No, the estimate is $12 million.
12 million, okay. Caller, you still there, Mom?
Yeah, that covers the cost of relocating, but if it's unsuccessful, what is the actual cost of the natural capital?
Okay, so the opportunity cost then, so the coral is destroyed, any factor for that number?
No, that wasn't bid. I mean, that's not a number you can put in a proposal.
It's not? Okay. Mom?
No, I realise that, but obviously the country needs to know what that cost will be.
So the lost revenue as a result of the site not being available to coral. All right. Anything else, Mom?
No, I think as far as actually then also relocation of it, are you just clipping off the top, or do you tend to, I mean, some of these structures are extremely large and extremely deep. So I'm just wondering, do you take it off? Are you going to drill down and go right down to the root, or how does that work?
The idea is, well, it depends on the type of coral, as you said. Typically, what is done is clipped at the base and taken to a recipient site where a peg is waiting, and then it's slipped onto that peg. That's how it's typically done.
Okay, and I think basically this has been raised before, but I think this would be the largest exercise ever done, and there is no proven case of this size. They have done coral relocation before, but I believe that it has not been of this size ever achieved yet. Am I right?
Coral relocation is done around the world, ma'am. It's done on small scales, it's done on large scales.
So on a large scale, what would be the equivalent successful story?
As far as I'm aware, our neighbor to the east, Jamaica, Falmouth, was coral relocation was taking place in there as well.
Yeah, that was unsuccessful. So where was it successful?
What on what basis do you judge that coral relocation was unsuccessful? I haven't been told that Falmouth was unsuccessful.
Okay, well, there's a documentary on it, so I'll be happy to forward that to you.
Yeah, Cozumel was successful.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. And I just wanted to
just before we leave this point, right?
Yes, sir.
I've lived here my entire life. Now coming up in a few weeks' time to 58 years. There have been hundreds of acres of coral reef destroyed in my lifetime by anchoring of the cruise ships. This is a point that is never raised when people discuss this. What a cruise berthing is going to do is to significantly reduce the need for ships to throw their anchors overboard. So none of us are pretending that there isn't going to be an environmental impact as a result of this. We have striven and are striving very hard to reduce the footprint of that and the impact of the development of this port facility. But there is going to be an environmental impact. But we expect that this will be one-off, as opposed to repeated assault on the reefs by accidentally throwing your anchor in the wrong place, or by the ship swinging around and the chain, wiping out huge areas of the reef, as happens on a distressingly regular basis here. So we have to weigh these things up and not just take a very blinkered approach to what the environmental impact of the development of this port, these piers is going to be. It is going to have a positive environmental impact in the long run, is my view, because, as I say, we will significantly reduce the need for cruise ships to anchor, as they have done over the course of the last nearly 50 years.
Now, with that, if we could then ask the perspective of the callers, has there been an assessment of the probability of success with the coral relocation?
It's a tried and proven test that coral is relocated using the method that is proposed, where it's cut at the base and moved underwater, so it's not taken out of the water and taken to a recipient site. That's what's done around the world. As Deputy Premier mentioned to me earlier, Cozumel was another example where coral relocation was done, and we're aware of that being done successfully. And that's just our neighbor.
And what has been brought in is best in class. This is the recommendation that has come in the business case, and this is the recommendation that's being followed.
Okay. And now to the point where we have the coral and anchoring, questions being asked, and if you have more than 4 ships, will those other ships have to drop anchor?
They'll either have to anchor, or they're going to have to keep up using the thrusters. But the occasions on which we'd have more than 4 ships would be quite limited, and so the impact would be significantly less if you have 4 ships, or the ability to berth 4 ships at once.
Yeah. Well, we certainly would like to extend the invite to come on again, because this is going to be an ongoing project. Just 2 final points. You referenced earlier the issue of the verification process, and in the statement to the Legislative Assembly that no contract will be executed until 1st of October. Mm-hmm. To what extent would this announcement yesterday and moving forward with the preferred sort of bidder somehow affect the verification process, the potential for a referendum if it meets the threshold and the like?
Not at all. Not at all. The reason why we've said we won't execute a contract until the 1st of October is to give the opportunity for the verification process to be complete. I mean, this is really an extraordinary situation. We can find no other jurisdiction in which there is an open-ended period for signatures to be obtained, a never-ending period, because there is no such provision in the Constitution itself. But a point has to come when the government has to say, well, you've been trying, the end of August will be 1 year since they've been trying to get these signatures, sufficient numbers of signatures. The government can't hold up its project indefinitely. So what we've said, based on the advice we've gotten from the from the supervisor of elections, is that he expects the process at its longest to be completed by the middle of September. And so we've said we won't execute a contract before the 1st of October to give every opportunity for the verification process to be completed.
Right. And you referenced yesterday in the CTC and not the procurement office or the procurement because of the sort of the start of the project. Some have shared since that with the project, not necessarily discounting the consultants, all the other work that's going on. Technically, the project hasn't started. Are we looking at it from sort of the legalese as opposed to the practical?
No, the project's been on the way for years. That's the advice of both the independent legal experts that we have, but also the other side. Mm-hmm. Government has spent now the best part of $10 million on this project. What we haven't done is executed a contract for the construction of the piers, but the project itself has been on the way for some years now. Hence the reason why the advice was that we needed to use the Central Tenders Committee as the body by which the preferred bidder would be determined.
Okay. Yeah. And then finally, the reference earlier was to the two largest sort of cruise companies being involved in it. Some have questioned whether a similar scenario like MAX 8 with Boeing and the FAA being involved could potentially be putting ourselves in the same scenario where these companies are involved with the evaluation and with the process and then therefore making decisions based on financial and economic reasons as opposed to the country and its environmental. Any concerns that like what's played out with the MAX 8?
I'm not sure I follow that analogy at all. Can you start again?
With the
No, I'm serious.
No. And I'd be happy to try to.
I'm not sure that it's on force with what happened with Boeing.
Okay, so I'll repeat it. The concerns that we see emanating in the international press with the Federal Aviation in the U.S. and Boeing's relationship and its approval process with respect to the MAX 8.
So what is that relationship?
And well, I don't know if you've been reading it in the New York Times and the other international media that have suggested that the FAA has deferred a lot of their approvals to Boeing when it comes to design and the like.
Right. So, and the FAA is what?
In the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration that does the approval, the regulatory agency.
Right. So what is the analogy with that?
And then the analogy being that if we have this grouping of entities with respect to the design, the construction, and the financing, when they're looking at what to do moving forward, could we have position the country?
But what role, what analogous role would they have to the FAA?
The FAA being the regulator.
Right.
And they've deferred
where's the regulator in this?
Right. They've deferred their sort of approvals to Boeing in order to expedite the process for economic reasons.
Where is the regulator in your analogy?
Yeah. Would we? That's the kind. Would we then taken away from the Port Authority, from the government, the cabinet, a role of being involved to ensure the environmental, the country, the social?
That's where
impact?
You lose me.
Yeah. So are we at risk of that?
That's where you lose me. Who in the scenario you just painted? Who in that analogy, or who is analogous to the FAA?
So what role will the Port Authority and the cabinet play in making sure that any decision relative to the design, the environmental impact, the social cost, not be just relegated to the Virgin Island partners, all of the entities that will be involved with the construction, the design, the financing?
Okay, let's understand the structure, right? So what we have is the Virgin Island Port Partners, who are the preferred bidder. They are made up of the two largest cruise companies in the world, Carnival and Royal Caribbean, Mac Alpine, and Orion. Okay. The Port Authority is nowhere there.
Right.
The government is nowhere there. The cabinet is nowhere there. They are the preferred bidders who, assuming successful negotiations take place, will sign a contract to build two cruise piers and an enhanced cargo port, and they will contract with the government of the Cayman Islands
through the Port Authority.
Yes.
Okay.
and the port. The leads on this are the Ministry of Tourism and the Port Authority. Right. So they will contract with the Port Authority and the Cayman Islands government, because the Port Authority is a standalone entity. Okay. To construct this, the Port Authority is the regulator. So, and this is subject to Cabinet's approval. So I don't follow the analogy about the FAA at all.
If in that analysis, then if the decisions relative to the design and all of the implications that would come relative to what the design would look like, how it would be, all of that being based on their financial considerations, are we confident that the environmental, the social, and all of the costs, what the country's interest will be?
No, but the government hasn't shrugged off responsibility for that. Not at all. We still have full responsibility for that, and the regulation of the port and the operation of the port will remain that of the Port Authority. The design that they came up with is a design which had to be approved by the ministry and signed off by CTC and ultimately approved by the cabinet. So if the design is bad, the government has to take responsibility for it. We may sue them, but we have to take responsibility for it. They are executing a contract on behalf of the Cayman Islands government, ultimately.
They being the Port Authority?
No, they being Virgin Isle Port Partners.
Right.
So the expertise that has come to manage the project and look at how the project and the contract has been offered has come from the Major Project Office, which has expertise in these types of projects, whether they had to bring it in or the ones that were available here. We also have the Environmental Assessment Board that looks at the scoping from the Beard project, that they will be looking at that and making recommendations and improving it. So the government has protection. It has followed best practice from the start. I think that's what they wanted to know.
Okay.
I would only add, so where they had marine engineers on their side, we also had marine engineers on our side, a company named Hatch that was subcontracted by KPMG when we were doing the procurement process. So we had our marine engineers as well looking at the design. KPMG also was there to look at the financial. Appleby Prince & Masons looked at the legal. And we had Royal Haskoning out of London looking at the environmental. So each aspect of it, we had the same experts looking at it from our end. We did not, by any stretch of the imagination, rely on just what they put forward.
So, just so that everybody is aware, the Public Management and Finance Law, for a number of years now, has a schedule to it which contains the famous or infamous FFR, Framework for Fiscal Responsibility, which actually mandates for projects above certain values, and this is the top end of any project. Very, very strict guidelines as to how you operate with the development of outline business case and the full business case, the hiring of independent experts with the relevant qualifications through each stage of the development of the plans for the project. There has been no project in Cayman, certainly no government project in Cayman, that has gone through the level of scrutiny that this project has gone through so far. Absolutely none. Absolutely none. Government has spent, as I said, the best part of $10 million. That's on our side. Not counting what they spend on their side to develop their plans. To check and cross-check every aspect of this project, from its financial viability to its environmental impact to the viability of the designs from an engineering and technical standpoint. So we have not, as your analogy suggested, handed over responsibility for design or for the financial modeling of this to anyone. We have and still retain full responsibility for that so that we get into this agreement when we do, with our eyes wide open, having had the benefit of all of this independent advice.
All right. Thank you all very much. And if ever the studio can be available to you, please accept it. To our listeners, tomorrow is Wednesday. For the record, Mr. Art will be hosting and we'll extend invitation. I think, Mr. Minister, you're there tomorrow morning as well?
Absolutely.
All right. So
looking forward to it. Premier's even coming with me.
Wow. The day gets brighter. They'll be on For the Record in the morning with Mr. Art. So please tune in then for more information. Until then, be blessed.
Thank you.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Voice of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman.
Shining down from above. We love our listeners.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.